We're going to smile this morning because once again it's time for us to talk with our good friend Bruce Dodd at ChatMortgage, who always puts his Santa Claus hat on, whether it's the month of December or the month of March. He has a way to spin life into a happy conversation. So good morning to you, Bruce.
Hey, good to talk to you.
So if people are wanting a low interest rate for Christmas, can they get it, do you think?
Well, maybe next Christmas.
Maybe next Christmas. But you know what? I was having a conversation with Mark Height, actually, the other day, and he mentioned something about interest rates being hovering around 7%. And we both began talking, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, when we were in our 20s and so that was what interest rates just were.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes I think when you look at it, you got to factor kind of in what is the cost to buy a house. You know, a year ago, if you wanted to buy a house, you had to pay somebody a lot more money than they were asking, and you had to come up with a lot of cash. Right now, houses are selling for what people are asking for them, but not a bunch more. So it's a lot more approachable right now for somebody buying their first house.
Well, that has to make, I know you can't really be partisan in this conversation, but you see an awful lot of paperwork cross your desk. So it's good for the country as a whole, isn't it? For those first-time home buyers to be able to be a first-time home buyer.
Well, more wealth is created from real estate than any other class of asset. So I think the more people you can shift from not gaining wealth to people gaining wealth, I think it's absolutely a good thing.
What about getting the money to buy the house? I mean, I guess logically you're thinking if you're a first-time buyer, then chances are you're renting right now. Not to paint anybody in a bad light, but rent has continued to skyrocket. So saving the money for a down payment might be a challenge for a lot of people.
But you know, for a lot of folks, you know, they think they need, you know, tons of money down, and you do, you know, for a lot of programs, you know, you can put as little as, you know, between 3% and 5%. And so, and there are some programs out there that provide some funds for people to buy their first house. So it's really an individual thing, but you know, it's not like you have to have 20% of the purchase price or something like that. That's a misconception.
Okay, that's kind of where I was going to go with you, that when they talk to you and begin the conversation on what it looks like for them to qualify for the loan they're hoping to get, you can kind of walk them through the best type of mortgage to undertake. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's not. You know, people are buying you know, at different price points, they're buying at different times of their life, they have different resources. And so what we take the approach is, let's just find out about you. Let's find out about what your goals are, what your resources are, and then we set our plan in place. And for some people, it's got to be a little bit of a plan. Sometimes it's a project for, you know, we've got to do some things. For some people that are ready to go right now, it's just a very individual thing.
If you're a headline reader, you're worried, probably a lot of people are worried about the financial stability of things. You know, is the Fed going to raise interest rates or lower them? What's going to happen with the stock market? On and on the story goes. So are you a headline reader, or do you just kind of hunker down and do what you can do today?
Well, I think it's important. I would caution people about being a headline person. I think it's important to read all the information, because often in, you know, print media, that sort of thing, they're wanting to tell sometimes shocking things, and so if you read beyond the headlines, often you're going to find out some pretty good information. But part of the reason, you know, obviously rates are higher right now. It's the elephant in the room when you're looking at things. And that's because we're in a period of inflation right now. And so the actions that are being taken are to alleviate inflation. And so, like anything else, I think you just focus on the long term, take care of business, and life will be just fine.
So we've had this conversation before. I've got a couple of minutes left. We'll have it again. Let's pick the scenario that you're a first-time home buyer and there's a house you can buy for $225,000. Just pretend. And your interest rate is 7%. If you can get that house for that price and stay in it for 3 years, in those 3 years, it'll be worth a lot more than the $225,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at historically before the pandemic, houses were going up 4%, between 4 and 5%, kind of depending on the price point. So if you're into lower price, typically going to go up a little more because they ain't building a lot of those, and there's a lot of people looking for them. So I would think it'd be reasonable to gain about $10,000 in value each year on something like that. So if you're buying about around a $200,000 house, over a 3-year period of time, you're going to have somewhere around $30,000 in wealth that you've created for yourself. You can either move that into buying the next house, or you can just keep gathering wealth.
That's right. Either way, you're going to win.
Absolutely.
So here's how you can find Bruce. It's ChatMortgage.com. His phone number 591-9801. He's well known in town, and he makes sure that all of your paperwork and your clearance and all of that, where you're good with the offer you're making to the house you want to buy, is ready to go. And that way the seller knows that it's safe to give you the house. Good talking to you, Bruce.
So it's a pleasure, my friend.